Does the MR1900 require long tube headers? Does the TVS 1320 have proven gains left on the table with long tube headers considering the scavenging effect?
It's a couple of things here. I would say the 1900 stuff, if you want to get the most out of it, you are going to want to do some sort of upgrade. I don't think it needs to be long tube headers. I don't think any of those on the market are necessarily going to be a huge power adder. As far as scavenging effect, I don't think I've ever seen a header on the market that actually is engineered for that.
Well, I think some of them.
They may claim, but I don't think that I've seen any properly engineered header that isn't just a header versus being actually like volume matched per cylinder and having the correct firing order in the collectors and doing all of that work to get it an actual any sort of reasonable scavenging effect. So I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that aspect of it too much.
Yeah, I think the scavenging effect is up in the air. There's going to be people that make claims because there are a handful of headers out there that do scavenge in that way, which means they're tuned. So when exhaust comes out of an exhaust port, it creates a high pressure wave. And the idea is that as the high pressure wave moves in and out of the collector, it creates a vacuum for the next high pressure pulse that goes through. And this would only happen at one part in the RPM band. You cannot create a scavenging effect, from 1,000 RPM to 7,000 RPM. So there's going to be a resonance. So it could be across 1,000 RPM where it starts and ends. And there's going to be a ramp up or slope up of scavenging and then back down after that RPM, but it'll be centered on one RPM point. So if you really want your car to accelerate hard at 5,000 RPM, let's say you have a Chevy 350, and you got a cam and everything's, let's say the cam comes on at 4, and then the Chevy 350, headers kick in at 5, and so you can kind of create this like 3,500 to 6,000 RPM power band. That's the whole strategy there. And that used to happen with a lot of testing and math.
Yeah.
It's the type of acoustics that you can model mathematically. Nowadays, there's actually computer programs that do this quite well. Computer modeling programs where you put in the lengths of the tubes and the size of the tubes and the size of the collector, and then once you can model something that performs, then there's the challenge of actually building it.
And if your model is correct, it's a lot that goes into getting a correct model, especially then you've got a blower to add in, and you've got forced induction on the other end of it.
It gets a lot more complicated.
It gets complicated quickly.
Yeah,
and then during your exhaust itself is going to allow that header to work properly in the mode.
Yeah, and it's clear. I think the model's correct. It's just, are you taking into account all the variables? And the model,
yes.
If the model doesn't have all the inputs, the output's going to be complicated.
Garbage in, garbage out.
But the math in the model is relatively solid and reliable if it can take advantage of that. It's the same thing in the speaker world of you design a speaker box and you're trying to determine the port length. If you don't put in boundary effects and end corrections correctly and all these other variables, then you're going to get something different in practice. But like Nate said, we did do a header on the 1900 though, right?
Currently, there is one on mine.
Benefited from
over the stock manifold. Yeah,
over the stock. And it's that's just more down to higher flowing tubing versus the stock manifold, which is, I wouldn't say restrictive, but slightly more restrictive
at that power level. And we did sensor it up. We did back pressure measurements, on those components and whatnot as well to validate that change made a